Who's got it better than us?
Nobody! Herbert is being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a great...
My goal is not to break you. My goal is to make you harder to break.
Comes back. Number 6.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
Touchdown! 90-yard touchdown!
Off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Sets his speed, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown! Chargers!
Boys, grab your lunch boxes and go attack this day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind.
Heading into week 4, the Los Angeles Chargers were placed well behind the 8 ball, but they gave themselves every opportunity to shock the league and knock the Kermit right out of Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Offensive woes wounded the team like a stuck pig, and the Chiefs go on to win their 6th straight against the Bolts, an 11th consecutive road win in the series. It's Andy Prophet, your host. I'm joined by my two best mates, Al Lloyd and Jack Reed, and welcome to the Thunder Down Under Chargers podcast. Boys, the game wasn't short of elements that were actually uplifting, considering the team down multiple starters on either side of the ball. Another one-score finish, keeping the Chiefs to 17 points, but to score 10 in the first quarter and nothing for the remaining 3 sits right atop the list of pain and anguish. You boys shared a bit of close time together down in Hobart for the game. Regale us with the throes of your viewing experience, gentlemen. Let's get stuck in.
It was pretty good for a while there, wasn't it, Alistair? There was some fun. There was some screaming. You can probably even hear in my voice that I'm still a little bit hoarse from Monday. Given that Alistair at one point did say, Jack, if you don't be quiet, I think the neighbours might call the cops on us. Luckily, that didn't happen. But let me start somewhere where I'm going to be uplifting. And I'm going to start this with a bit of positivity. Picture this: you're a brand new defensive coordinator in the league. You've coached 3 weeks in. You've done a pretty good job, but you've got the biggest test of your career. You're up against arguably one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and you're up against one of the best offensive minds in football ever. Ever. Last week and the week before, your defense was kind of doing some interesting things with pressure. Started off pretty hot, but pretty low. Jesse Minter is so hot right now, baby. He is so hot, I want to boof him. He dialed up an incredible 42% pressure rates. Mahomes was being pressured almost every second time he's dropping back. I thought the defense played an incredible job, as they did. They're keeping us in games. The other side of the ball we'll get to. But Jesse Minter is so hot right now. And he did it without Bosa and Derwin James. Incredible game prep, incredible preparation. Well done, Jesse Minter. Well done, defense.
Yes, so for the US listeners, I want to boof him is a euphemism for fornicate with. And at certain points, we were almost fornicating with each other, Jack, on your couch in your living room. As Andy alluded to earlier, I flew across the Tasman Sea about an hour to go spend a lovely long weekend with Jack and his partner Beck and beautiful young Molly, who's just the cutest child. You both have 2 of the cutest children ever, so I'm very excited myself about soon becoming a father. And Jack, though, I am very glad that Molly was not in the room with us watching that game, because she would have learnt all sorts of new language, slang, noises. There is no way that neighbours would not have been up in arms calling for a potential domestic suit, because we were out of control. But as one of our good friends, Chris Ball, likes to say, adrenaline is legal. And we indulged heavily. And as you said, Andy, the Chargers gave us lots of reasons to be excited, not least Jesse Minter. But where do you want to start the conversation, Andy, in this game? Because there's plenty to unpack on either side of the ball. Where should we begin?
I'm happy to stick with the defensive side, because in 4 professional coaching jobs, he's not allowed more than 20 points. What a start. 2 turnovers in the first 5 Chiefs plays. Like, what a way to come out of the gate and really put the Mahomes and the Chiefs on the back foot. Sacked Mahomes 3 times, as you said, Jack, without Joey Bosa. To a lesser extent in that facet, Derwin James. But they really, once again, we saw it last week, kept the the flailing offense in the game until the damn walls finally broke. And it's at least we've got one really good thing to enjoy, sit there and enjoy. It's not the sort of necessarily the sexiest side of football to appreciate, but we're sickos, so you do it nonetheless. But fantastic to see from Jesse and an undermanned crew. It's great.
Oh, I disagree with you saying that it's not sexy. There's nothing more sexy than big men stopping the... I thought we stopped the run relatively well. The Khalil Mack had another great game, and he's just building off of last year. Some of his numbers are pretty incredible when it comes to setting the edge, and whenever someone comes into his area, he hardly lets them go. The interior did quite well. I thought Ford and Tear Tart had their best games from the last two as well.
Give us a guttural Puna, Jack. Do you have one in you?
Puna. So
you're allowed to breathe.
Listen. The only thing that was a bit of an issue was that giant pass to what's his name? Xavier Worthy. And you know what? If you're Minty, you're living with that, because I think what popped up on the screen was Mahomes' longest air yard completion ever at 62-ish yards. So he's had to hit one of the best throws of his career. Yeah. Actually, no, it's arguably the best throw of his career to beat. Gilman maybe just came down too hard from the safety spot there. But overall defense, I thought was great.
Yeah, and I think the biggest revelation, Jack, is we were talking last two shows about where's this pressure at. Yep. Mahomes was pressured 26 times, 44.1% of his dropbacks. That I haven't checked it. That's got to be the highest a Chargers team has ever pressured Mahomes. And it was done with this perfect rush lane discipline. The way the kind of angles they took to stop those escape lanes, Mahomes only had 5 carries for 12 yards. Minter rarely blitzed, just 17.6% of downs. So it's this idea that we'll blitz in frequently, we'll have these nice triangle coverages on the back end, we'll contain you and get enough pressure with 4. And then we picked up a few times, Jack, Andy, I'm sure you did too, we've got these athletic linebackers who can survive in man coverage. And there were a few lovely examples where Mahomes just had nowhere to go. He's getting sacked. There are errant throws. You will not see a better Charger performance, or anyone. It was one of probably Mahomes' bottom 10 performances in his career. Excellent job. So Jesse Minter, man, he's absolutely flying, that dude.
Yeah. Jack, I thought you brought up a really great point about the well-rounded effort by the interior defensive line. They generated 10 of those 26 big pressures on Mahomes. And I thought at times not having Joey Bosa there was noticeable in run defense, but at the same time, like what the sort of support cast to Khalil Mack, so Bud Dupree, Tooley did a really great job. Like Bud Dupree, 2 sacks, and Tooley was everywhere early, really set the tone. And yeah, I mean, look, we're going to get stuck into what the heck was happening on offense, but from a defensive point of view, really good. What I will say while we're on defense is, why is it not ingrained into players to not bite when Mahomes pump fakes? Troy Dye, then Morgan Fox sucked into it in the fourth quarter. And look, that's jumping ahead to the back end of the game.
No, but that's good, because we've all been singing praises. So that's definitely one thing. Yeah,
because that was one little scramble, and then the ability to just open up a passing lane, and I think could have been Noah Gray or Justin Watson that was hit up on that. So look, it wasn't perfect. We knew without Derwin James it was going to have a hard time covering Travis Kelce. His best game for the year with 89 yards, but it wasn't like Kelce ruining the defense. So that was a really big thing. It was containing him, just doing enough for the offense. But I thought AJ Finley had his moments there, and whilst it wasn't a fantastic game, I thought, by the linebackers, I thought, there were definitely moments where the tight ends were kept in check to an extent.
Well, Jack, how did you feel about Travis Kelce and his impact on this game? Would you take it as Minter?
Before I speak about that, I guess maybe coming back to earth a little bit, Mahomes loses his wide receiver number 1. Actually, I'm not going to say that. Mahomes injures his wide receiver number
Killed
one
him.
by
killed
breaking
him.
his leg, essentially. I can't believe Romo didn't actually they didn't say anything about that. And listen, Kelsey, apparently there's all these things roaming around. Does he actually want to be there? Does he playing football? He's the heaviest he's ever been. He's unfit. So yeah, we're singing Minter's praises, the defense praises, as we should. But at the same time, context is really important. If there are any Chiefs listeners out there, they're probably going to go, but we didn't have this, we didn't have that. And you've got Kareem Hunt coming off the practice squad, essentially, because that Carson Steele guy's turning it over. Do you take the Kelsey game? Of course you do, because he doesn't tear us apart. If apart from that first big completion for 38, 40 yards, there are a couple of times that are annoying. I thought the coverage was draped over him. They were pretty tight. So yeah, I'd take that Kelsey game every day of the week compared to some of the other ones we've seen.
Yeah, he's been a game wrecker. Al, I want you to talk to me about one of your boys from the draft, Taheeb Still, in his debut start in Jasir Taylor's absence. What did you think?
Didn't think there was a drop-off, that's for sure.
No.
I mean, he got lucky with one drop catch on his man, but he looked like he didn't have those missed tackles we talked about in the preseason, and he was kind of around the ball. It looked like he knew the rules. So, look, Jasir probably gets to return to the playing lineup just out of seniority, but it's always good to know that you've got the cattle behind if injuries were to arise. What did PFF give him as a grade? Did anyone see that?
58.7. Yep.
Okay, so they're saying slightly below average, but I thought there were no glaring completions on him, put it that way. And you would think that that's the guy you might target if you're Andy Reid. Oh, where's the 5th round rookie? So yeah, man, I was pretty happy with that myself.
Sweet. And he stops talking. Well, look, do we want to get stuck into the offense straight off, or is there any other notable player on defense that we want to shout out? Nope.
No, I reckon let's get. This is what people want to listen to anyway. So the negative stuff.
The venting of the spleen. Yeah, look, near perfect first series, right? 10 plays, 74 yards for the touchdown. It's a nice 22-yard completion to Disley. Then you've got McConkey, 3 receptions for 27, including that just unreal catch from 7 yards out. Showcased just incredible chemistry, I thought, how that's developing between him and Herbert, lacing that pass around the DB with his back to him. It's like he kind of just knew, Herbert knew where he was going to be, and McConkey knew where he needed to be to make that catch and fall inbounds. I got a little bit scared when they were sort of reviewing the play, and just before the point after attempt, the ref's standing in front of the ball, but yeah, sound. And then, we're able to start the next drive from the 20 with the interception. This is kind of where it started to just fall off a little bit, because you're pretty much in the red zone, in the red zone, and you get the Sam Mustafa chop block. Might hear his name a little bit today. 15 yards back, Solia has a holding penalty, so we go 1st and 25, 2nd and 19, 2nd and 29, 12-yard loss on the drive, and Dicker's kicking it from 50. Yeah, of the following 8 possessions, 2 lasted more than 5 plays. So before I get super stuck into all the nitty gritty, like, how are we feeling after that first drive, Jack? Sure, you would have been up in arms.
Listen,
I could hear you from Melbourne.
If I'm going to draw some history into this, because we've got a Roman as our play caller, it's almost like the first couple of drives that are scripted is almost like we've got Marcus Aurelius ruling over Rome. I love some of the play design that he'd drawn up. There was some trickery on the back end. There was some interesting things. Players were getting open. Herbert seemed in control. There were no pre-snap penalties. I was going, oh wow, this team is prepared. And then slowly Rome starts to burn, and we've got Caligula as the emperor, and things just start to fall apart. And they fell apart, I thought, far quicker than they did against the Steelers, which is a little bit worrisome. And people will say, oh, we've got essentially a practice squad at right guard, and the line was hodgepodge and things. I don't know if that's a excuse, because a week is a long time in football. These are professionals. These are professional coaches. So there seems to be some sort of disconnect about the way they prepare and their first 20 odd scripted plays, and then where it goes from there. So Alistair, why is this happening, do you think? And, why are we just, I mean, it's a really large question, but why can't we move the ball?
Oh, each game is different. So the first 2 weeks, I would have said I'm pretty happy with the balance and how it's all working and organised and looking professional. But to take your analogy further, mate, this is Scipio Africanus and Hannibal and the Carthaginians, where the Romans they wander in, they're a bit aggressive. We know what we're doing. We can control our legions. And then all of a sudden you're just enveloped in a pincer movement and you're dead. You're dead and you've just lost your territories. And I think two things in this game really hurt us. One's obvious, pre-snap penalties. When your offensive line have 8 pre-snap penalties, which you can say is broadly on coaching, but maybe it's not like Greg Roman, what are you doing? That hurts you as a play caller because, as Andy said, Chargers actually faced an average distance to gain of 10.9 yards on second down throughout the game. That is unbelievable. To be 2nd and 11 every second down is just no good. But part of that, I think, is coaching, Jack, because what we're seeing is we're the team with the 32nd in pass attempts. So throwing at the least in the entire NFL. And when your approach is we're going to run on first down pretty stubbornly, or the moment you convert a big pass, you get up to the line and run it on first down against a team who was obviously expecting it. I mean, J.K. Dobbins isn't having any success on the ground the last 2 weeks. Gus Edwards, we'll get to him later. But I thought Spags definitely won the game of flexibility, of thought, mind, experience, and that was bloody.
Or was it just Chris Jones? Because Chris Jones possibly had the most impact of any player on the field on that game.
Yeah. Yes and no, because some of these are coaching decisions, right? Leaving Sam Mustafa one-on-one with Chris Jones on the pivotal 4th down snap of the game is a coaching call. It's a protection call. The inability for Zion Johnson in particular and others to pick up stunts again and again, or to leave just one player through unblocked, that is schematic. That's maybe not having an extra back end to protect. That is part of it all and your concepts. Now, I know I've been negative. I do want to say Greg Roman did 2 things in this game that I think we can be positive about. The screen game was working, boys. We've talked about not throwing screens to running backs. Well, Chargers went 4 of 5 for 51 on screens and almost hit one to Hayden Hurst. I watched the tape today. That was going to go for 40 yards. And unfortunately, it was another one where an unblocked defender comes through and almost kills Herbert, so can't hit the screen. The other one, Andy, was play action was working. 8 of 10, 100 yards and a touchdown. So maybe those are 2 things. What do you think? Do you think this offensive performance is more personnel driven, or do you think it's a bigger problem about the philosophy and the coaching of the whole thing?
I think there's elements to both of it. I think this game in particular was personnel, like more personnel driven. But there is, I think, issues with the philosophy because I'm starting to feel a little bit like we got Joe Lombardi back at the helm. We've got some scripted plays to start the game off, and they seem to be working. And then when you got to think on your feet, make it happen, falls to shit. You're a run first or run heavy guy, and last week was 60 yards off 20 carries. This week, 54 off 24, 55 off 24. What's going on? Maybe that is down to personnel, but we still had Joe Alt for the majority of the game last week. We still had, Trey Pipkins arguably playing better at right guard than left tackle. It's a tough one. Jack, I'm going to just throw to you quickly because I want to know at this point in his career, regardless of new schemes.
Does the surname rhyme with Fatcock?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm saving the big pie for dessert. I'm actually going to ask you, Jack, because there was maybe 3 guys, we'll say 3 guys who were experienced on the offensive line. We know what we're going to get with Trey Pipkins. We've seen throughout, I guess, his career what we're going to get with Bradley Boseman. Is Zion Johnson for 17 overall a bust? Yeah. Is that a bust for a first-round pick? Because I can tell you this, he's not seen neither of his first 2 seasons as a pro graded above 60 in pass blocking. He's on track to be lucky to break 40 this year. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, he's in a bit of trouble, I think. Clearly, the run blocking is suiting him more. He's a power player. He's big. He likes to get downfield. Having Bozeman to his right, and then let's say Slater to his left, I think helps him. Not having Slater there does damage him quite badly, but there are some things that I'm seeing with his feet and his lack of quickness, or as Alistair touched on, his inability to see stunts. And he just can't keep the defender in front of his face. He's always reaching, or he's just that little bit slow. So I'm actually worried that he can't see. He just lacks NFL speed. I think he's got the power.
Scientist.
What's this?
Computer scientist. It's like these two smart guys. They said Jerry Tillery was a brainiac as well. Maybe it's the old adage: you don't want intellectual giants out on the football field.
It's interesting, right? And listen, Andy, I'm gonna throw one back to you because and I'm gonna precursor it with some stuff though. But my question to you is: do we need to start blaming Herbert a little bit more? Because whenever we start, and that's my question to you. So you've got some time to think about that. I'll throw some stuff your way. At the moment, and listen, everything is contextual, but I just went to have a look at time to throw across the NFL. And PFF have Herbert ranked as 23rd in the league at 2.74 over the course of the first 4 games. And you go, oh, well, yeah, clearly that makes sense. However, you look at the guys that are below him in terms of time to throw, I start to ask questions and I go, those guys look like Stafford, Burrow, Mahomes, Goff, Cousins, A-Rod, Prescott, Geno Smith. And most importantly, you've also got Mayfield down there, who's quite a fair way below him. Listen, we're talking milliseconds here, but
Sorry, are they all taking longer to throw than Herbert is?
Less time to throw. They're all taking
throwing it quicker.
They're throwing it quicker, or their lines are giving them less protection. Mm-hmm. Clearly, there's context. Herbert doesn't have 2 good feet. He's got a lack of receiving weapons, perhaps. However, him smashing his helmet on the sideline says to me that something's going on internally. So are we right to start actually asking Justin Herbert, are you feeling these big boy pants? Should we start laying the blame a little bit more on him? And I know that's a very, very provocative question to ask. And are we going to be the ones that start slamming Herbert? But what do you think? And then you can shift it to Al so he doesn't get off scot-free.
Well, it's a scale, right? The blame it's a scale. Like, do we just blame him a little bit more because are the receivers being schemed open? Do we have the receivers? You're right. He's relatively immobile. Am I seeing things from him that I don't really want to see? Yeah. And that doesn't include the helmet smash. I like seeing a bit of passion. It's funny when Joey Bosa did it, we're like, oh, yeah, when Herbert did it,
double standard, yeah.
Yes, he's got a bit of dog and fire in him, and fuck this Sam Mustafa guy. I'd be throwing everything. But do I think? Yeah, look, I think if you're a leader, you've shown what you've been able to do. I think a little bit of blame does have to sort of fall on him, and I don't think us 3 anyway have been saying none of this is Herbert's fault. He's off scot-free. I'd like to see a little bit more, but he can only kind of do with what he's got. He's missed a few reads. He's missed some throws. It certainly hasn't been perfect. Al, jump in.
Look, I thought the game film in this one showed him make a few pretty spectacular bloody throws when the chips were down. I thought he had a pretty good game, though. Again, he got away with a couple. He did throw like a random quick slant that went into the defender's hands and out of it. And because it's not intercepted, you just forget it's not an interception. But he is having a couple of these turnover-worthy plays every single game. It is a fact that PFF's grading, whether you like it or loathe it, attempts to isolate a player's performance by individually marking every single snap. And it is a fact that before this season, Justin Herbert had never had consecutive games with a PFF grade below 60. Well, we're through 4 weeks and it's been below 60 every single week. 57, 54, 58, 56.
Can I ask you, Alistair, then? I'm going to throw the heat back on you.
Please.
All those other quarterbacks, or most of them that I read out, are finding ways for their teams to win. Good quarterbacks who get paid upwards of $250 million, over their career in this contract, they're finding ways to win. They are doing other things that is not just individual player performance. And yes, we can look at Herbert and we can go, yes, he's making some incredible throws, but does he know the protection? Is he reading the game? Is he communicating with his teammates? Can he lift the play of those around him? Because that's the next step. Your Brady's, your Mahomeses, all these guys who are in this top tier, they raise the level of performance of those around them.
Yes, when Joe Burrow had this similar high ankle sprain last year at the start of the year, he did have some similar middling performances. I do want to keep saying he's played 2 great defenses carrying probably a pretty limiting injury. It does not exculpate him, right? He's got to carry some of the blame. But also, Jack, does it help that he's got an offensive coordinator allowing him to throw the ball the least in the entire league? That's got to muck up your rhythm a little bit. So you add to that the fact that I do think his weapons might be a bottom 5 in the league if you combined tight ends, receivers, and running backs. Obviously, no Alt Slater this week. Throwing it less than any other quarterback, and he's injured. I'm not going to drive a stake into Justin Herbert right now because I'm still seeing the special plays, and I think he'll work it out. Okay, all right. Here, I've got a little fun game planned, boys and listeners, and I want you to jump in the comments. Obviously, some fans are worried because you start 2-0 and then you're 2-2. So I've put together 8 data points, and I'm going to ask each of you: should fans be worried about this? Hey, Americans, man, it's data. So start with you, Andy. Gus Edwards, 14 snaps on the weekend. How's he going? Should fans be worried? Gus Edwards, the RB2.
Yes, a little bit. Dobbins was obviously the clear, beneficiary of the good run game. He was the guy making the moves and getting yards. Now that's dried up. Gus Edwards, he's good for like 5 yards once or twice, and I know he's he's coming back from a bit of an ailment, but it hasn't been a great start for Gus.
Not a great start. 38 carries, 113 yards at 3 apiece. Got a lift. Jack, Jim Harbaugh's attention to detail. Should fans be concerned?
No, I don't think so. He was very self-reflective in his press conference. I wouldn't be so bold as to suggest that I should have got that one in front of a national media. That shows transparency. That shows someone who's willing to get better at those things. He's a bit rusty. Game 4 in the NFL. Should he be rusty? No, but I don't think we should be worried.
Wonderful answer. For what it's worth, I thought the decision to challenge that obvious catch was pretty bad, but that one right at the end
hard.
of that... No, I thought the last one was hard when Palmer rolled and then
that's the one I meant. Sorry,
I thought that one. I think plenty of people would have stuffed that one up.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, back to you. The lack of tight end receiving options in this offense. 15 catches through 4 games. Should fans be worried?
I'm worried. Yes. We ummed and ahed about the likes of Parham being set free, and we've sort of seen like some pretty good blocking, the odd screen pass. You mentioned there could have been one to Disley that, could have got 40 yards, but it doesn't look like a threat at all. So it's worrying me. Fans should be a little bit worried by that.
If we are going to laud Shep Ortiz for all the short-term free agent deals, the Hayden Hurst signing is looking like an absolute fizzer. Nothing being offered down the seam. All right, Jack, we've discussed Herbert, so I'm going to change it slightly. Rather than Herbert himself, what about his utilization? Because his stats through 4 weeks, they look, if you asked anyone to bet on it, they read as the stats through a quarterback through 2 games. And there his stats for 4 games. Herbert's utilization.
Yes, we should be worried. You mentioned all the things that are going against Herbert performing, and he's still looking at a relatively even EPA from what I checked last time. So he's not adding anything. We're not losing anything off of him. The utilization is worrying, but I wonder if it's just an amalgam of different contextual factors, which is limiting that as well. So he's just in this cocoon of limitation, from physical to game plan to weapons around him to how Roman is building the offense. But
release the butterfly, man.
I would be very worried. Hopefully he's a butterfly by week 10.
Yeah. All right. 4 more, a bit more quickfire on these boys. Andy, lack of any contested catch element in the passing game since Mike Williams has left.
Get me DJ Chark into the fold after the bye. Get him healthy. Get him back in there. That's one of his strengths, speed and contested catch. It has been a big worry, but I'm not going to say fans should be worried just yet. Let's see what comes of DJ Chark.
Help is on the way. Jack, QJ, this game was a bit of a coming down to earth, targeted 5 times for the 1 catch. Should fans be worried about that?
No. See what happens after the bye.
Love it. Short, sharp. Andy, 2 more. Jesse Minter, we've sung his praises. Should fans be worried that this guy's destined to be a head coach next year and he's going to leave us, man? Chargers number 1 in the NFL in points allowed through 4 games.
I'm not thinking it, but yeah, when you bring it up like that, little bit, it's impressive.
So stop being quite so good. Like, just drop back to like 12 to 18's fine. You don't need to show off with this top 5 rubbish. Come on, mate. So after Staley in the defense the last 3 years, we'll take 16th. You don't need to shoot for top 5 across every conceivable metric. Jack, last one, brother. Should fans be worried? Special teams. PFF ranking has them at 16th of 32. What's going on with your man Ficken?
I was really hoping he'd give me a Sam Mustafa question. Should we be worried there? I was ready for it. I was over the plate. I had my big bat out, and you've given me a fizzer, and I'm walking to first base. No, I wouldn't be concerned. I think he's proven himself that he's a top 10 unit. The new kickoff laws have proved to be havoc across the league, I think, with weird stuff going on. Returners aren't returning, etc. So I think that's a bigger of an adjustment than I think players thought, or at least we thought as analysts and sort of a lay fan.
Yeah, okay. Well, Jack, you asked for it. You get your own question. You don't think I've got more prepared? Decision to start Sam Mustafa. Signed with the Chargers practice squad on the 28th of August, 4 weeks ago. What about McFadden, Hymas, Solya, Sorrell?
Yeah, we should be worried about the internal decision-making there. I'd like to know. It would have been nice if they explained it. The only thing we got was we thought he was the best. So that worries me a bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know where you're ever going to finish. Look, there's thank God the bye's coming. We need the week. We need to get these guys healthy. We need to get them back in. Jack, I'm just going to add on to your special teams thing. The kickoff thing is one thing. Darius Davis's decision-making in the punt return game is feeding into Tau 837's want to rid him from the team, because from what I'm seeing, I'd actually rather Hassan Haskins returning. He's the second guy down there on the kickoffs, and there were moments late in the game where Haskins took the kick and Darius turns around and goes, "Man, just take a knee." If I was Haskins, I'd be like, "Shut the fuck up, man. What do you know? You've made bad decision on bad decision. Every time you let the ball go, we're starting from the 3."
Yep.
Man, it's who was it? Help me out here. Was it Travis Benjamin? With that return that ended up into a safety. It's not quite there.
No,
but
it's definitely not that. Yeah.
It's getting close, right?
I just had a PTSD moment there. Yeah.
Yeah, shocker.
Travis Benjamin.
Shocker. What I'm also looking forward to, and a big boost for special teams, not only the return of Dean Leonard, but Nick Neiman's been on IR, and he has been a stout special teamer for some time. So welcoming... Yes. Simi Fioco was not too bad in the gunner role this week. Made some good tackles after... Look, JK's been kind of inconsistent with his punts. Had a couple of boomers from bad spots. Simi was there to sort of crunch... I think it was Mecole Hardman. I could be wrong on that, but crunched a couple of returns there. All right, Al, let's get into Snakes and Ladders. I'm going to start off with Up the Ladder. And I'm pretty torn here because I want to be all over the defense with praise, but we have absolutely gushed over Jesse Minter. So I'll say one thing. Give me, lad, the TD catch, the chemistry with Herbert. Excuse me, How about the shallow crosser and yards after catch for that 37-yarder? 67 yards is his best return, 5 receptions equaling his best haul. NFL Next Gen stats suggesting the TD catch in the first quarter was a 20% probability. And for context,
So
the
good.
13th least likely catch of the entire season to date. That big catch and run expected to gain 10 yards, managed 31 down the field. He's doing this slippery stuff. He did it last week too, and this pick is looking like a total home run. We were shocked on day 2 of the draft when Mr. Capital himself, Chef Ortiz, traded up. Lad is why up the ladder.
He's a bit slippy, lad. He's a bit slippy. And Jack
Before
and I
I
were
throw-
hugging back to front after he caught that touchdown pass.
Touching all the bits. Before I throw over to you, Al, this segment is a good chance for each of us to sort of pinch the mic. I know Al's got multiple double barrels locked and loaded for down the snake, and Jack will see us well past the hour with his teachable moment. So I'm going to take my chance with a special mention. I did briefly say him earlier, shout him out earlier in the show, but Ortiz has made more off-season moves than we can count. Something Chargers fans are not accustomed to at all over the last 11 years. Many were apt, beefing up stocks at positions where depth was non-existent, but look, hold your applause for the patchwork offensive line and maybe a couple of question marks in the tight end room. But where Telesco would look at position groups and say, I've got Mac, I got Bosa, I got Tooley, I can put that one to bed. Ortiz brings in Bud Dupree. He generated 2 sacks, 5 total pressures, and as I said earlier, set the tone for defense when the offense was rolling, keeping the Chiefs at bay, and that was what was needed. So, Joe, your job is not done yet. We're expecting great things before the trade deadline. So over to you, Ali boy.
Keep the moves coming. Smoking Joe. I'll keep it quick. We touched on Zion. I'm going to pivot because we haven't touched on Scott Madlock. It ain't working, boys. It ain't working. Going false start on 1st and 10 after the Xavier Worthy touchdown and making it a 1st and 15 and looking at Herbert just scream, fuck! Like, I don't know who screamed it louder, Herbert or Jack. Jack's reaction to that was sensational. He's almost blown the roof off his own house. And he's right, because that is so important. Like, they've just scored a long touchdown. Out comes the offense. This guy randomly overbalances forward. And I've got to say, he whiffed on, like, the key lead blocks as the fullback a few times. He just missed the assignment. Not seeing enough. Of course, he caught one in the flat and didn't quite get the first down, but then celebrated the first down. You've had a nightmare, Scotty. So let's just hope you turn into a real boy after the bye, because I reckon you got one more chance. I'll see one more performance, and if you're great in the 40s and have 5 clangers, we're going to come for you very hard on the next show. All right, Jack, over to you for
Give me Ben Mason.
Or Ricard from Baltimore. This week's Teachable Moment is brought to you by none other than Bill Walsh. When things go south, I do turn to the wise words of Walsh whenever I can. It's that and Marcus Aurelius. But here we go. As the Chargers sit at a critical point in the season and frustrations begin to rise amongst the fan base and us, it's easy to focus on the immediate results. But just like Bill Walsh did with the 49ers, Coach Harbaugh, and I've said this over and over, is laying the groundwork to something bigger. The culture he's instilling in this team isn't just about this season, it's about a foundation that will lead, hopefully, to long-term success. Walsh's journey, and we've also got to remember, that started at 2-14 with an 8-game losing streak in the middle of it, reminds us that the process, preparation, and trust are what create sustained excellence. For the listeners, and for you two here, I'm going to do a little bit more teaching. So when I read out a key step to building a winning culture, see if you think Harbaugh and the team are ticking or missing this step. And for an even deeper layer of thought, compare what Harbaugh is doing to what Staley was doing with each one of these 5 steps. First one, few things offer greater return on it or on less investment than praise. The first step is recognizing and celebrating the hard work your team puts in every day. Step 2, when you prepare for anything, you're ready for anything. Meticulous preparation ensures your team is ready for anything, even the unexpected. Step 3, culture precedes positive results. Hold yourself to the same high standards you expect from your team. Step 4, your enthusiasm becomes their enthusiasm. Your energy will inspire the team to bring their best even when things get tough. And this final step in building a winning culture, as Welsh says, is I believe in you are the 4 most powerful words a leader can say. Show your team that you believe in their potential and they'll rise to meet the challenge. Ticks, crosses, class dismissed.
Nice. I would tick most of them. In fact, I think I would tick all of them.
Number 2 for me. Number 2.
What was 2 was the prepare for everything.
Prepare
not
for every
anything?
possible. Correct. Yep.
So he's not doing that in your opinion.
Well, the team at the moment is possibly not.
Yes. Yeah. And I think we should say, we haven't really said it. The Chargers were scores were level halfway through the final quarter against Mahomes and Reed with all of those injuries. So yes, we've broken it down and dissected everything. Ultimately, pretty good result when I think a lot of us, in fact, we predicted multiple score losses. So not all doom and gloom. Some easier opponents after the bye, Andy. And what do we got to finish the show this week?
Building.
Yeah, well, that's it, guys. The good news, folks, is that there is still plenty to play for. Week 4, done and dusted. Team needs to regroup, retweak, realign the crosshairs to week 6 and beyond. I think Khalil Mack put it perfectly in his press conference. This isn't a week off. It's a week of work ahead to steady the ship. Paraphrasing a little bit there. Hopefully regain some key pieces after the break. Derwin's back from suspension. We'll see exactly what's going on with Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, Joey Bosa. Get some stocks back. So before we leave you today, TDU crew, let's go around the NFL for a choice headline each. Jack, over to you.
There's a man from Yulee, Florida, who had a fantastic game. And his name is Derrick Henry. And the reason this headline, all it says is crunch, which is a play design of wham and trap. He goes for 199 yards. The Baltimore Ravens dominate the Bills with a statement game. And I tell you what, this two-headed monster of Lamar and Derrick Henry's just getting warmed up, and I can feel it in my cockles. Baltimore in, I think, what are we playing them? We're playing them in later in the
14.
season. Gonna be a big one. Gonna be a big one. But good to see the big man running hard.
I'm going to take some comedic approach to the headline this week. I got to witness firsthand, listeners, you got more famous types on television, dog whisperers. I'm best mates with a bona fide QB whisperer. Because you would not know somebody who reckons he can just assess and predict a quarterback's future and performance by the way they look on the sideline, whether or not they smile, how quickly they get the snap off and hand it off to the running back. Anything other than throw the goddamn football, Jack will eyeball you and go, nah, you're not it. And I got to watch the Rams and the Bears with Jack and him just looking for every excuse to say, Caleb Williams, something about him. I don't know if it's the way he's looking. But look, what I'll say is Jack called it very early about Trevor Lawrence. There was something about Trevor Lawrence coming out of Clemson that he didn't like. And I think we'd all agree that he hasn't quite reached his lofty heights that were expected. So, mate, at a certain point, you just have to defer to the whisperer and realize it's not all stats and numbers and data analytics. Sometimes it is the vibe. It is just judgment, intuition, watching, looking, learning. That's my headline. I'm friends with a savant.
This is why we should talk about our headlines before we do the show, because I believe that there is a $275 million problem at quarterback in Jacksonville as well. Sitting 0-4, yet to score over 20 points this season. Jack's all over it. He just knew there's something about him. I know, rocks in glass houses with what's going on with the Chargers, scoring points, quarterbacks kind of maybe going a little bit backwards, but and Trevor's averaging just 183 yards a game, woefully inaccurate, 53.5% completion rate, and his pressure to sack ratio is almost 1 in 4. 24.5%, 12 sacks from 49 pressure dropbacks. He's had more time to throw this year than he has since his rookie season. They brought in gun center Mitch Morse, Ezra Cleveland sort of halfway through last year, added Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr. is a gun from LSU. Is it Doug Peterson? Or the nature of the passing offense in 2024 around the league? Or is there just something wrong? And I know you'll like this, Jack, with the Easter Island monolith statue. Sitting at the bottom of the AFC South ain't a place you'd want to be, especially with Mayo Man and Mason Rudolph notching their first win of the season for the Titans. It's good to see. $275 million. All right. That's been fun. It's been as enjoyable as it can be. Heartbreaking loss. We hit the bye 2-2. As I said, still heaps to play with, play for. Lots to play with in Hobart. And look, we'll keep an eye on Twitter at TDU_Chargers throughout the week. We might take a bye week as well. We don't know. We'll have a look. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on TDU. See you then.
Boy, governor.
Bye-bye.
Back pedals looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it. Zigzag. 10, 5, high step. Touchdown. San Diego.
Woo! Good night. Good night to all.